for the panel today, we will be discussing, so we have been discussing team dynamics, and we have been discussing how to manage the team, communicate with peers, communicate with team members, communicate with stakeholders. Now we will change the topic a little bit, and the discussion will be about how do you go about career growth, and how do you go about growing from a data scientist into a team leader, or not? Because we will be discussing, there are different progression paths, and we will be discussing the different options that exist for progression within the data science career. So that will be the main discussion we will be doing today. And my first question, and maybe Stefan, I will start with you, and then Luis, I will ask you to chime in as well. But in your opinion, what are the key skills to be a good leader in our space? And when we talk about horizontal leadership and vertical leadership, are the skill sets different, or the skill sets that you use to be an horizontal leader and vertical leader overlap significantly?
I think the basic skills overlap quite a lot. I mean, to be a capable leader, you need to sort of trust people, give them autonomy, and sort of grow them. And you need to be able to listen to them, and then sort of to guide them and be direct in the guidance. You should hold back on that. I think these basic skills are exactly the same in both domains. And then it's more about, okay, do you do more sort of stakeholder management and communication in that way, or more technical depth?
What do you think, Luis? Key leaders to be a leader in our space and to grow as a leader in our space?
I think it needs to start by being a good individual contributor. So know your stuff. And then communicate well. I think that it ends up being very important on growing, and that it's not about the title you have, but being recognized by the peers. So you become a leader, natural leader on the team, even before like you have a title of a manager or a head of. And for that, you need to be empathic, you need to be listen to others, you need to not be an idiot, so be self-reflective, right? So this is for me very, very important. I would say the soft skills would say for me 55-45 or 50-50 with the other part in order to be recognized as a leader and be effective leader. Yeah.
Let me ask a follow-up question on that. So one thing that I see, I don't know if you see the same, but when we talk about growing as a leader and being recognized as a leader by the peers, we may create incentives for someone to try to play Superman and to try to, be the first to get to the issues, to solve the whatever problems are emerging, to prove the work. So is there a friction there, or you don't think so?
Depends on the culture of the company that is in place. I think, of course, visibility is important for recognition, but for recognition by whom? By the management, by the executive team, or by your peers? I think the peers will always recognize somebody that is eager to help and be helped. Now, that person that does things just to get that recognition, just when others are looking, I think the team notices that. That ends up not being a good thing to get recognition from the peers. And from there, it's just a downhill. Even if they get promoted, the road for success will be a hard one.
Yeah. And the bridges may not be in place with the team, the
Correct.
colleagues and whatnot. That makes sense. So now talking about career paths. So how should a team member, imagine a data scientist that wants to grow, wants to progress, what are the main things that a data scientist needs to do in order to ensure that progression? Are there typical progression paths and actions that should be taken? And maybe Stefan, starting with you.
Yeah, I think it's important early on to be sort of willing to take on very broad type of assignments. So you learn you understand the data engineer, you understand the sort of data analyst, you understand the business. You try to sort of be diverse, sort of gather knowledge. I also think it's sort of something you should try to coach through one-on-ones, just give them clear directions. That can be, in some cases, I tell someone, I want you to be more sort of business thinking. I want you to be more sort of take more ownership in this. And then, okay, we talk in 2 months and let's see how it goes. I think that kind of coaching is very much needed. And you should talk to the person about, okay, where do you want to go? And try to set up a coaching in that way. It doesn't have to be the manager that does the coaching. It can also be a senior member of the team.
A follow-up question, because I really like that point. How important is it to find a good coach?
I think it's very important. I don't know how to quantify that, but I mean, I find it at least sort of very fruitful when I sit down with someone who's, I mean, I've had people that are just recently graduated PhDs. They don't have any working experience, so I know the domain knowledge, or sort of the technical knowledge is all there. So we just need maybe 1 year to train the sort of way of working in a company and how everything is sort of just business driven. Nobody cares about your paper or anything like that. So it's just this kind of coaching, but be very clear about, we are coaching this now. We need to be better at this.
Do you have an opinion on whether it would be preferable to have the manager doing the coaching or the coaching or someone else?
Not really. It's just about the person. I mean, if you have a very skilled sort of principal data scientist or something, they can easily do much of the coaching.
Thank you, Stefan. Luis, I am a data scientist. I want to ensure I continue progressing in my career. What should I do?
I think about, so ML professionals, ideally will be T-shaped individuals. Okay, so I think being solo data scientist will not be enough. Okay, so I believe that they must grow onto other disciplines. As Stefan pointed out, this is very important to prepare you to talk different languages on different data tribes, and then even beyond that inside of the company. That communication will be key to success of your team once you become an assigned leader, so to say. A second thing that is important is that the science can be a generalist, but in order to be successful, ML is a space very vast. But it's good that you cover one of the squares a little bit darker than the rest. You have that part of the T, okay, where it's vertical that you are very good. Being time series, being computer vision, recommendation, it really doesn't matter, but there a point where you differentiate yourself from the rest, and there is where you sit. So that will be a full T. If you are a full T, you are already like very close to be, from the functional leader point of view, you're already a leader. Then you have the part of soft skills, that's another story. Yeah.
So no way around becoming more of a generalist as you went broader as you approach your progression. Now we have an interesting question related to, we are discussing the progression for data scientists, but as we know, we have more and more different profiles in our teams. And imagine that we have someone technical, for example, a data scientist in one of our teams that wants to grow into a different role, for example, a product management role. Is this a typical thing to do? And is there a typical path? And would, the things that we are discussing, would the steps be different or not? And how so? Luis, maybe we can start with you.
No, I mean, I think the end goal is slightly different. And I had the situation in the past. One of my team, that's somebody that went from being individual contributor to be product manager on the product team. It really depends on what is the long-term career path that this person is ambition to, and as well, which are the skills that this person already has and they want to develop. So, but in general, I still believe that the ideal product person to deal with complex subsystem teams such as ML teams will be somebody that can code, will be somebody that can understand the model, because otherwise it will be very difficult to do the translation that is required on product role between business and tech.
Stefan.
Yeah, I tend to agree. I mean, I would with that person, I would start to find smaller projects. Sort of, okay, now we're doing this. Okay, can you take care of just writing the slides for the business front? So you need to completely different language there. Can you take more of the sort of? Can you be a Scrum Master or whatever system you have for a month? Just give them sort of small training sessions on these different things. Maybe they realize, hey, I'm only spending small amount of time on data science now. I don't want to do this.
And adjust the coaching a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, then dial this down.
That makes sense. Now we have a question for us. So, as a leader, how do we go about focusing on the latest advancements, staying up to date with trends? Is it very important for a leader to be up to date technically, or as you grow as a leader, there are other skills that become more important than being, super current with the latest developments?
I have perhaps an opinion on this that is a bit polemic. I believe yes, it's important for you as a leader to become up to date, because I always believe that as a leader you must be able to do everything you ask your people to do. Okay, so this is how leading by example, and they will naturally progress on the type of tooling, the type of methods and approaches they are doing on a day-to-day basis. So if you don't progress, you became a PowerPoint leader. And I speak for myself. I don't like to have PowerPoint leaders leading me. I don't think they are good coaches.
Yeah, good points. I find myself sort of lately, back in the days, I was able to sort of follow everything continuously. I find that I have to do this in batches now. So I take like a week or two. Okay, now I need to read up on this. But there are tools like I mentioned, the hackathons we do. We learn a lot from them. So some team goes into something, sort of, I want to try this out. And I try to be very active in the hackathons. As you said, you need to be sort of keep your hands a little bit dirty still. And then, I mean, conferences like this, they help a lot. So you get an overview of what is happening. Sort of, that's the point there I hadn't paid attention to. I'll read up on that.
Yeah. A follow-up question. And how do you go about, so Stefan already mentioned the batching. So how do you go about making sure that you have the time to continue investing in being up to date?
Perhaps I didn't mention, but I don't. I don't have the time. So here and there, when I saw an article, I bookmark it. I have a to-do list, and here and there, at the weekend, at the night, a train, I pop up that article, read it, try something on some Jupyter notebook, but I don't have the time, so I invent the time.
Yeah, because that's one of the main challenges, right? Because you need to do it, and I agree that it's important to have the respect of the team, but having the actual time to do it is always a bit of a challenge.
But I also think it's important to, you still have the respect when you say, I don't know, you tell me.
Yeah,
I agree.
You should not sort of fake it. They will find out immediately.
Exactly. And if you try to project trust on shaky grounds, they will. So exactly. People are smart. They will know immediately. Now, I think we have a question to make things a little bit more concrete. So when we were talking about we are data scientists, we want to continue progressing, we defined some areas of investment. And now we have a question around, for example, particular tasks, particular projects. What would be, if you are to do that progression, what tasks should you take on, or projects? Are there particular things that you would advise? Maybe Stefan, now starting with you.
Maybe as I mentioned before, I've seen that as a very good training ground to ask people to, okay, can you make a presentation for non-technical people? That's just, okay, you need to start thinking differently. I mean, there's no box plot anymore.
Yes.
Out of the window. So you need to sort of put yourself in their shoes. That's the first step, I think. So then you can start talking to different stakeholders and be more sort of forward-facing with that job. But then, of course, you need to learn from different technical jobs, as you mentioned before. Get different assignments in that direction.
Great. Thank you, Stefan. Particular assignments that you would recommend for a data scientist that wants to ensure progression?
I think to have do some Kaggle challenges. Okay, I think that what that brings a more comprehensive view of the field. That will be important. Okay, what I often see, even on PhD, sometimes that are applying, they are very focused on one area. Let's say recommendations, computer vision. Then we give the person a task on binary classification, and they fail miserably. Okay, so that is a basic, right? So to cover basics, nothing better than practicing. Okay, and I think Kaggle is still today a good platform to do it. So that's my tip.
Immediate feedback, right? You have immediate feedback.
You get immediate feedback both on the forums, because there is always somebody willing to post an answer in 5 seconds, but also on the leaderboard, obviously.
Now we have a question that I find interesting. Do you think, so imagine that we have been talking about progression for data scientists. Do you think that data scientists and data engineers are equally likely to be promoted to leadership roles? Are the paths the same, slightly different? So what's your take on that, Luis?
I think the paradigm shifted across the last decade, with data engineers were having more of a role. Not more of a role, but the impact of data engineers on the day-to-day of the companies, I believe, was different, was more visible. And therefore, because it was more visible, they were more easily end up becoming on head of data, director of data positions. But what I see is even those that happened, then they had to switch the focus, because we are now on a decade of monetization of that data, where also the focus of the job of data engineer is different, because there is a lot of tools that now automate the classic, or what was the bulk of work of a data engineer. So then the big work of data science became more visible, and I believe that has been more the trend of the last 2-3 years, is to bring those people out of visibility and the era of technology that we are at the moment. Yeah.
Stefan, are data engineers less likely to get to head of AI or director roles?
I don't have any data, so I don't feel comfortable talking about it.
Sample size equal to 0?
Not 0, though. I have a few anecdotal evidences, which is not evidence. In my experience, it's probably more likely that a data scientist will get promoted. But that's from the few companies I've worked with. I mean, there are many other domains.
If you are a data engineer, how can you counter that?
As Luis said, I think it's a lot about a lot is about visibility. I mean, are you engineering your solutions sort of back there and nobody knows about it? That's maybe the pitfall you could fall into, but it's also, as we discussed earlier, the visibility should not be at the cost of the super team. I absolutely agree with that term.
Yeah,
if I may add, it's also, I think I would reinforce on the point of visibility, right? So I think the modern data engineer, the classic data engineer was business agnostic. It was building a lot of infrastructure. I think the modern data engineer is somebody that is responsible for data lineage and looks a lot to data quality. If that happens, they are more likely to get visibility on the tech organization and beyond, that will propel them to leadership position. The point is there are still very few data engineers that are capable or even interested or having such a visible role. Yeah, I would say.
And something I've been observing is also a shift. So some of the data engineers that are worrying about this topic, they are trying to move, for example, into machine learning engineering roles and trying to shift a little bit using the same core skill set, but maybe using it in slightly different ways to be closer to that component with more visibility. I think this wraps up the panel and the session. Thank you, Luis. Thank you, Stefan. It was a very informative session. Many topics about leadership that we don't often see discussed. So thank you for that. Congratulations. And to everyone, enjoy the last day of the conference. Thank you so much for being here. Cheers.